Why, hello there, and welcome back to the GSL-English Podcast. My name is, of course, Gideon, and in this week's episode, we have another guest. I am not alone this week. It was my absolute pleasure to have Lewis from English Life with Lewis join me for a little chat. Now, if you follow different English learning accounts on social media, once again, I'm pretty sure you are going to know who English Life with Lewis is. He's a fantastic teacher that puts out really engaging content that helps you to learn real and natural English. And we talk about a variety of different topics today. Lewis is from the north of England. I am from the south. So we talk about the differences there. We talk a little bit about food, football, particularly English football, but also we talk about travel, and Lewis has put in a lot of effort to learn new languages. So we discussed that as well and what helped him, and I know there will definitely be some points that you can take away from this podcast. But it's just a really nice chat, and it was an absolute pleasure to get to know Lewis a little bit more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy two English guys having a chat together. So, Lewis, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
It's my pleasure, first of all, for being here. Thanks for inviting me. And I'm doing well. I'm at home looking outside as it's raining. This morning it was just spitting. It was just drizzling, like raining a little bit. And then gradually, as the day goes on, it's starting to chuck it down, to pour it down. As I'd say in textbooks, it's raining cats and dogs. But apart from that, I'm all good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm pleased, mate. I'm pleased. At least you're in the warm at home. It's been the same here. We've had quite a good March, but today has just been absolutely atrocious. It took everything in my willpower to get out of bed. It's one of those days.
Well, you did it. So, give yourself a pat on the back, and you've achieved your minimum goal for the day.
That was it.
You asked me, what about you? How are you today?
I'm really good. Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you. Had a busy day of students, and I've been looking forward to having a chat with you for when did we start arranging this? Probably about a week ago, was it?
A couple of weeks ago, maybe. I've lost track of time. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, very good. So, Lewis, where are you now in the world?
So right now, I'm in the capital of Belgium. Some would say the capital of the European Union and Europe, Brussels. A beautiful city known for its beer, chocolate, waffles, Tintin, the character from the comics.
Yes.
Yeah, he's Belgian.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. Tintin is Belgian, and the creator is from Brussels or somewhere around Brussels. But no, yeah, I live in Brussels at the moment. But in the past, I've lived kind of all over the place, mainly in the south of Spain, in Seville. But I also did my Erasmus in Palermo, in Sicily.
Wow.
And I spent a year in Australia doing my gap year, but I was teaching English whilst I was there as well. And before that, I was also in Argentina for 6 months, living with an Argentinian family.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've done a fair bit of traveling. And now you could say that I'm settled down to a certain extent in Brussels.
Yeah, I love the way you put that, settled down. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so you've done quite a bit of traveling, which we're going to talk about in a moment. I can't wait to pick your brains on all of the countries you visited and hearing your story a little bit. Now, I went to Brussels. Well, I can't remember where I was traveling to. We stopped off, and I remember going to is it the Grand Square? Or I think that's butchering the name.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Grand Place, which would be the big square, the great square, the Grand Square. And no, it's beautiful in the city center of Brussels. And when it's lit up as well at night, it's amazing. Whenever I walk through the square, you can see loads of tourists posing and taking photos. And of course, I've done those photos, but now I just walk straight through. And maybe I take it for granted because it's really beautiful, but I don't stop, stare, and admire the beauty that often.
But isn't that true of anywhere we live? Like London is an incredible city, but now when I go, it's often with a purpose. But the architecture is incredible. The atmosphere is amazing, but we end up just taking things for granted when we get used to them.
No, 100%. It's funny, actually. That reminds me of the fact that I'm watching a famous Netflix series at the moment, which is called The Gentleman.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's directed by Guy Ritchie, a famous English director. And there's a cut to clip at the end of one of the episodes where there's a boat just going under Tower Bridge.
Right.
And it's like, wow, London's so beautiful.
Oh, it
We
is.
really we don't appreciate enough.
No, it really is a beautiful city. And I always say to myself every year, I want to go just as a tourist and just take it in. I don't know. I'm not really a photographer, but take pictures and
Uh-huh.
just absorb London. But I remember when I went to Brussels, we stumbled across in the evening, not stumbled across it in the evening. And I remember them doing projections on the building.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what it was. It was like some kind of celebration, and it was just incredible, absolutely incredible atmosphere, and yeah, just a really nice place to be at that time.
No, 100%. Like, I've seen them do this a few times actually. I think any excuse really to light it up
Right.
and have some kind of show.
Yeah.
But no, it's one of the places in Belgium and in Brussels that you actually stop and stare and
Mm.
think like, wow, this is really beautiful. Because you have to say that with Brussels and with London as well, there are other areas where we can look and think, oh,
Yes.
I didn't expect this. That looks
Yeah.
a bit grimy, a bit grotty.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess you have pros and cons to everything and everywhere as well.
Yeah. It's so true, isn't it? Sometimes it's just nice to see it from just a tourist naive kind of point of view and just, oh, it's amazing. So, Lewis, where are you originally from?
So I say Leeds, which is a city in the north of England, fairly close to Manchester, about an hour
Okay.
away. But I'm actually from a town called Bingley,
Oh, okay.
Bingley. And it
Okay.
has a population of like 20,000 people. It's well connected to Leeds, Bradford, and Manchester as well.
Wow.
And Bradford and Leeds are in Yorkshire. I actually recently got this United Kingdom map, so then I can pinpoint and have a
That's a good
look at where
idea.
I'm from, which is quite cool. So now I'm from, let's say Leeds, but Bingley, really.
Bingley. Yeah, we're going to go with Bingley. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to stay
Oh,
strong with that. The Bingley Massive. Going to
so
stay,
good.
yeah, stay strong with that. Now, I know the North, of course, is football loving, as well as the South. Now, you're probably going to hate me for this. I
Uh-huh.
used to
Go
love
on.
football. I used to love football, and I kind of just fell away from it. Do you have a team? Is there a team that you particularly like? Are you a football fan?
Yeah, 100%. You can see
Okay.
I'm nodding my head. I'm saying yes with my head. By the way, the opposite is to shake your head when you say no. But you
Exactly.
can tell that you don't really like football anymore because on top of my United Kingdom flag, there is a sign which says Elland Road. And
Right.
Elland Road is the name of Leeds United Stadium. So like Old Trafford is where Manchester United play, Stamford Bridge where Chelsea play, and Ellen Road is where Leeds play. So I'm a big Leeds fan, and I'm lucky that my dad actually works as a photographer,
Oh,
and
wow.
he works for the Yorkshire Post, which is like the regional newspaper,
Yeah.
and he specializes in sports. So he goes to Leeds matches more or less every other week, so alternate weeks.
Mhm.
And sometimes I get to go with him and go to the press box and sit on the gantry next to the journalists and watch the matches like that. So um,
Wow.
I've never had any other option but to enjoy sport and support Leeds.
Wow. So Leeds United has really been kind of it's part of your life, isn't it? And that's quite an interesting thing in England is actually it wasn't necessarily in my upbringing, but for so many English people, a football team is part of their life, isn't it? Or part of their family kind of history.
Yeah, 100%. Like now, I have a little nephew,
Oh,
and I'm just waiting for the moment to get him a Leeds kit. But
mm.
there's a little problem because my brother-in-law, his dad, is a Manchester United fan, and traditionally Leeds United and Manchester United were bitter rivals. It's a strong, fierce rivalry. That was when we were good. Actually, when Man United were good, because they're not anymore.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, really? Is that the current situation? They're not great.
More or less, yeah. So
Okay.
Leeds at the moment are in the Championship, the second
Right.
division. We got relegated, so we went down to the second division last season. But this season, we have a strong chance of getting promoted, so
Oh, okay.
going up to the Premier League. And in the meantime, Manchester United, since Sir Alex Ferguson left his role as the manager, they've been, just getting by and winning some matches, drawing some matches, losing other matches, but they've been overtaken by Manchester City and
Okay.
Arsenal and Liverpool as, at the moment, the three best teams in England.
Wow. Okay. Well, I could listen to this for ages. Honestly, it's been
You're
so
learning
long
so
since
much about football, you know?
I am. I'm going to be honest. I was when you said Leeds United. Now I've seen that sign. I can make the connection. I'm very
Uh-huh.
annoyed I didn't notice that. I'm not going to lie. Um, but let me tell you, my first ever football game was Charlton Athletic
Uh-huh.
versus Leeds United. Funnily
Oh,
enough,
really?
um,
What a
we
coincidence.
yeah, we got some free tickets, and I think I went with my dad's and some friends. And I liked football, just being a young lad. I think I don't know how old I was. It's like maybe 10 or 11. And I remember Leeds United beat Charlton. I think it was 6-1. Yeah, and and I loved it. After that, funnily enough, I thought, oh, I'm going to support Charlton. Don't know why.
Uh-huh.
It was kind of, yeah, I don't know why I chose that after the defeat because it didn't really stop there. But yeah, so that's really interesting. It just kind of brought back a childhood memory of that being my first game. Yeah, with the yellow
Perfect.
kit.
Yeah, yeah, and just related to this, for those of the audience who are tuning in and watching this video, if you would like to practice your English listening skills, but at the same time you want to know what's going on in the world of football, and in particular English football, I listen to a podcast that I think is the best podcast in the world, but it's because I'm really into football, and it is by The Guardian, and it's called The
Oh,
Football Weekly. Um, the name's a little bit strange because nowadays they have like 3 episodes per week. So it's not
okay.
really weekly anymore, but
Yeah.
they get together and they talk about the matches that happened at the weekend. Then, if you have European football in the Champions League or Europa League, they also dissect and analyze it. But at the same time, it's not boring. They're cracking jokes, people are laughing, and they also speak about other issues
Brilliant.
related to football and not just kicking the ball. So that's a nice recommendation. Football Weekly by The Guardian.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, mate. I know there will be plenty of people listening that will really appreciate that. And I think I'm really pleased you suggested that because if you can find a podcast about something you do enjoy, and I know we have football fans listening, if you can find a podcast with something you do enjoy, it makes that exercise so much easier, doesn't it? And you're more likely going to listen and practice. So yeah, if you can find podcasts you enjoy, definitely do it. Yeah, brilliant.
Hopefully
Thank you.
you'll be hooked now. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And maybe you'll get some commission. Maybe they'll come over to you and say, look, we've the Guardian, we want you, Lewis.
I wouldn't say no.
I wouldn't say no. So, as I said, I could talk about England and everything for ages. But before we move on, favorite English meal. Do you have one? I was talking about this with my friends yesterday. I've had time to think about it and come to my decision, but I want to know what you say first. Favorite English meal?
Okay. Yeah. I do love food in general. I love going out to eat. I love cooking. I love anything to do with food. And actually, I watch a lot of videos when I'm bored of just people making food and eating food.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'm a foodie.
yeah.
Uh,
Have you seen? Oh, sorry,
go on.
Beard meets. Oh, what's his name?
Beard meets food.
Yes, I love that man.
Really?
He's amazing.
Because we're gonna have to delay the conversation of my favorite food because you have no idea what happened to me just before Christmas in Leeds. So Beard, his name is Adam.
Yes.
He's from Leeds.
Oh, of
And
course.
me and my group of friends, we all watch his videos kind of religiously.
Right.
So like every Sunday when it comes out, I've even got my girlfriend addicted to watching them. And she's
Right.
like, so basically, for those of you who don't know, Beard Meets Food is an English guy who goes around America and the world taking on food challenges, trying to eat humongous plates of English breakfast, burgers, etc. And yeah, I adore him. And when we were out having some drinks and having a good time, catching up with my friends before Christmas, one of my friends ran into the bar and was like, guys, shut up. You have no idea who I've just seen. And I was like, who? Who is it? The Queen? Oh no, can't be that. Oh,
Yeah.
is it a Leeds player? But no. And it's like, it's Beard.
Oh, wow.
So he was in the same bar. So as soon as my friend told me this, I walked over to this guy, this YouTuber, and I was like, Adam, shake my hand. I
Yeah.
respect you. Keep doing what you're doing. You're killing it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Wow.
just recently,
Wow.
legend.
What was his 'cause it's always interesting. What was he like?
He was really nice. I think we'd both had a few drinks.
Right.
So, and I think there were quite a lot of people that time who were approaching him.
Recognizing him because he's big,
And
yeah.
he's quite big. Yeah, he was asking for photos with him, lots of selfies, but it was really nice. He was just like, "Oh yeah, nice one."
Oh,
And
good.
then to not like disturb him and annoy him, I just got the selfie and then walked away.
Wow.
Um, but
Brilliant.
I'm still excited about this. As
Yeah.
you can see.
Yeah. Well, that will live with you now. No one can take that away from you. That is a fantastic memory. Yeah, he's an incredible guy and kind of envy one, his job, what he's
Uh-huh.
created,
Yeah.
and two, the physical ability he has to eat so much food is just remarkable.
It's
But incredible. But yeah, back to you. Sorry, we digress very quickly there. Favorite English meal? What is it?
good. So I'd say a few, but fish and chips by the beach. If you're right in
Yeah.
front of the
Mm-hmm.
ocean or in front of the sea and you have some greasy fish and chips with scraps, lots of salt and vinegar, looking out, whether it's sunny or not at the beach is amazing. But I don't eat it that often. So that's one of my favorites. But my favorite has to be kind of Indian food, which
Yeah,
people might say, like, oh, this is not English, but chicken tikka masala was
exactly.
invented in the UK.
It's a national
Um,
dish.
so yeah, I'd say English Indian food is probably my favorite English food.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty common answer. Yeah, because it's part of our culture, isn't it? Now it's just our identity. Yeah, Indian food, great answer. And it's interesting. You mentioned fish and chips by the beach. It does
Mhm.
it. There's something about okay, we have fish and chips, that staple English meal, but eating it in the paper with the
Yeah,
vinegar, sitting down by a beach with your mates or your family, there's nothing quite like it.
like, no, 100%. Like I'd say, like there are other things, English breakfast and stuff
Mm,
like that, which I like, but I don't eat it that often.
mm.
But there's something nostalgic about
Yes.
what you just described with fish and chips in front of the beach, which will always take me back
Yeah,
to being a little kid walking on the beach. And I was like, oh, fish and chips, fish and chips. So
exactly.
yeah, fish and chips and Indian English curry.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, what about you? What are your favorite typical English dishes?
Mm. Now, so we had some friends and we were talking about this the other night over our house, and it took me a while. I'm not going to lie. It took me a while to commit to a decision, but
Mhm.
I kept coming back to this one answer, and then I thought to myself, Gideon, why are you fighting it? This is the answer. If you keep coming back to it,
Embrace it.
yeah, a roast dinner, particularly my mum's roast dinner,
Uh-huh.
but just a roast dinner with all the trimmings, which is all the bits, everything you need, covered in gravy, with my family. For me, that's it. Roast dinner. Yeah,
And with this, like one common debate is, well, there are a few actually.
there is
But given that I'm from Yorkshire, do you have Yorkshire puddings on your roast dinner?
most definitely.
Fantastic. Second is, what meat do you tend to roast? Chicken, turkey, ham, gammon, or beef?
I like it all. If it's all an option,
Perfect.
then yes, just yes to all. But I am quite partial to either just a standard chicken roast or a beef roast or a lamb roast. See that? Yeah. Yeah, I'll go chicken. I know but yeah, just the simple, the standard, chicken
You
roast.
can't go wrong,
You can't. You can't. So yes, yeah. Once again, I think we could talk about food for ages, and maybe that'll be for another time where we just have a full episode of just talking about food.
4 hours about food.
Yeah, yeah, I could do it. Challenge accepted. Yeah. All right.
Beard, we're gonna need your help.
Yeah, yeah. Wonder how that call would go. Um, all right. Very good. So, one thing I find really interesting about kind of chatting before and us talking is the amount of destinations not only that you've traveled to, but you've experienced. You've spent time in, you've lived in. If we can go back to kind of where did all of that start? Where did the traveling begin for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's hard to say exactly when it began, but when I was growing up, we usually went to Spain or to France in summer for a week. That was always really nice. But it probably began when I started to think about what I wanted to do with my life. And I wish I had known when I was 10 years old that I wanted to be an English teacher and I wanted to make content and all of these things, but I didn't. It was always kind of, let's say, a backup option that I would travel and teach English. But when I was 16, 17, 18, I started watching loads of documentaries about different countries that I'd be curious about, like, I don't know, a trip around Vietnam, a trip around Brazil. And I'd watch these documentaries and think to myself, like, oh, I'd like to live in these places, for a couple of months and see what it's like. So then when I was 18 and I had finished my A levels, so when I was deciding whether I wanted to go to university or not, I made two different cover letters. So these are like application letters that you send to universities to see whether you get accepted or not. And one of them was physiotherapy. Because I like sport and I thought, oh, it could be a cool job. I could work for Leeds United or Barcelona or God knows where. But I thought, actually, it's probably not as glamorous as I'm imagining it to be. And it's probably more just giving massages to people who have low mobility. So then I thought, well, I could just keep my options open by studying languages. So I applied to study Spanish that I already knew a little bit of. And I started Italian and Portuguese at the same time at uni. And that was basically with the idea that I would travel and enjoy a year abroad as part of my degree. And from that point, when I'm 22 and finished my degree, I could go to these different countries and experience life for a short amount of time. So yeah, I'd say it was around that time when I made the decision that then going to university and having a year abroad allowed me to travel more and more. And since then, I haven't looked back.
Yeah. Wow. So that's really interesting. So you're kind of just in your family exposed to traveling and holidays and things like that. And yeah, it was interesting. You said you didn't know at that time you really wanted to be an English or content creator. And just for anybody watching or listening, that it basically you need to go follow Lewis on his Instagram, which I'll tag down below in the comments, and you'll be able to. But I really like your approach to teaching. I think it's so clear and authentic. I think it comes across really well. So you've obviously, you've got a knack for it. You can tell you're doing something that you love.
Yeah. Likewise, by the way, love your content, and yeah, that's why I was excited to come on this podcast and get to know each other better and speak about what we love, so people can learn some of these expressions that we're using at the same time. But yeah, I forgot what I was going to say.
No, I didn't. I'll be honest. I didn't lead that with a question. I was just flattering you with showering you with compliments.
No, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
getting hot here.
Oh, you made me blush. Yeah, but no, honestly, I think you do a great job. So definitely give you a follow and learn a lot.
Thank you.
Coming back to the travel. So, okay, your gap year, remind me, where was that spent?
So when I was 20 to 21, I had 2 years in Liverpool studying.
Yeah.
And then I had to spend a year abroad in the languages that I was studying. Spanish. So of course I could have gone to Spain, Colombia, Peru, Mexico, and so on. And I wanted to go to South America. And there was, for some reason, Argentina was always in the back of my mind. And I was thinking, oh, Argentina looks amazing. Maybe because of football, maybe because of the Italian heritage at the same time. And I was also studying Italian. And there was a program to teach in a local school and live with an Argentinian family at the same time. So I applied to do this program for 6 months. And I went to a small town in the province of Buenos Aires called Bahia Blanca, which wasn't tiny, but it was kind of in the middle of nowhere. Because in Argentina, you have Buenos Aires, which is absolutely gigantic. It's enormous. And then you have smaller cities around it. So this was in the same province as Buenos Aires, but it was 6 hours down south.
Wow.
So I was kind of isolated, but I spent 6 amazing months in Argentina. The family were really welcoming. They were really nice. I managed to improve my Spanish so much thanks to being with them. And one thing that I remember now and I wish I could go back and enjoy one day is related to food.
Of course.
Every Sunday, I'd sometimes be a bit hungover. I'd be tired. I wouldn't be very sociable. But I'd smell that they were cooking barbecue and they were making an asado. And I'd see the family arriving bit by bit. I'd wake up and like, oh, do you want a glass of wine? So they have wine, bread, salad, and then just loads of meat on a grill. And this was every single Sunday.
Wow.
So yeah, that was half of my gap year, my year abroad at university, which was incredible. And the second half was doing Erasmus program, which is a European program where you can study in different universities. And I didn't really have many options. I had 2 options in Italy, which were the University of Padova, which is next to Venice, and the other one was the University of Palermo in Sicily.
Yeah. And
I like good weather and I like beaches. So it was a no-brainer, an easy decision for me to choose Palermo. And it's funny that I was actually living with Spanish people whilst I was there. So it was good for my Spanish, but it wasn't very good for my Italian because I never really managed to immerse myself in Italian and Sicilian culture. So my Italian skills kind of stagnated a little bit and didn't go to the next level.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. So you've really done amazing with your languages like Spanish and with Italian as well. And it was interesting, the point you made earlier, you saying that that it was that isolation or that kind of having to use the language when the choice has gone to speak in your native language. That is what really helped you to just immerse and absorb the language as much as possible, that isolation.
Yeah, 100%. Like if anyone asks me for recommendations about places to go and study English, I would say, if possible, go somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And if possible, spend time with a host family, or at least be surrounded by native speakers or people who are also using the language every single day. Because if you go to a big city like London, then it's so easy to find someone who is from your country that you, of course, get on well with. And then you'll feel lazy about coming out of your comfort zone and actually speaking with the local people. So if you can, and if anybody's thinking about going abroad to improve your English, go as far away from civilization as possible.
Yeah. So every choice is gone. And yeah, it sounds dramatic, but it is true. And I've seen it so many times that those that have advanced the most is when they have simply no other choice but to
Uh-huh.
speak the language. And I think you raised an interesting point that it wasn't just the language that you were immersed in, particularly when learning Spanish. And it was a bit of an issue when you were trying to learn Italian, was that you were immersed within the culture as well.
Uh-huh.
You were living that life. Do you think that's an important part of learning a language, is to also understand the culture that comes with it?
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely important. Many people say that it is the most important thing, and I wouldn't agree 100% because I
Mm.
think you have to immerse yourself in the language, and as a result, you need to consume a lot of media. And by
Yeah.
doing that, you're going to learn
Mm.
so much about the culture anyway. So like as I said, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, read the news. There are so many things that you can do. And I think it's interesting to take a step back. And when you're trying to learn the language, also you can perceive some things that might be different from the culture that you're used to.
Yeah.
And I think, at least with American culture, it's what the United States has been best at exporting. The biggest export isn't like Hollywood, it is what comes with Hollywood, and that
Oh,
is their culture.
that's interesting.
So I think whether you like it or not, you're going to be exposed to so much culture when you're learning a language anyway. So you don't need to like specifically look for it, because if
Mm.
you're learning it the right way, it will come, and then you can choose your kind of micro culture that
Yeah.
you're into the most. So whether it's different newspapers have different visions and ways of looking at the world, and then you just choose which ones you like the most.
Yeah. I really like the way you approach that, because I think sometimes people put so much pressure on, should I speak American English, British English, Southern, Northern, Australian? But actually, I like the way you approach it. It goes, just try it, see what you
Yeah.
like, see which preference fits you. It's almost like, just relax, and enjoy it. And I particularly like as well, you said, if you're learning English the right way, you'll automatically get exposure to the culture. And I guess the wrong way is just kind of focusing on textbooks,
Mhm.
on facts, but actually just absorbing yourself in the language, as you said, podcast, YouTube, books, TV. Just you get that exposure, don't you, naturally to the culture.
Yeah, 100%. Like, for example, anyone who is watching this video or listening to us at the moment, they clearly already know how to learn a language and how to improve their English. And if you're able to understand all of these expressions that we're using, then first of all,
Yeah.
round of applause, well done, because this is designed for kind of intermediate to advanced students.
Mm.
And it's clearly people who have already learned most of the grammar. They've already done all of these basic things with vocabulary, and now they just want to push to the next level,
Mm.
which can be quite difficult and frustrating. Once you reach an intermediate level, if you can understand what people are saying, but then when you have a moment to speak, you're like, oh, what was that word? Or
Yes.
oh yeah, I know
Yeah.
what you mean. It's the what do you call it? The
Mm.
thingy-majiggy. And to be honest, the only way to improve this and practice is, well, as I said, by practicing. If you don't
Mm.
practice speaking, your speaking isn't really going to improve. And I'm
Exactly.
guilty of doing this quite a lot with my language learning,
Mm-hmm.
where I really enjoy listening to podcasts. I really enjoy all of the input part of
Right.
learning language because it's easy.
Mm.
But then when it comes to actually speaking, whether it's just reading the news out loud, I'm always like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe tomorrow. I can't really be bothered. I'm, on
Yeah.
the sofa, just chilling out.
Yeah. It takes a lot of effort, doesn't it? And it is so true. And I would say, I think majority of language learners are guilty of that. It's easy to take in, but it is that getting into that mode of practicing, speaking, getting in that environment isn't always easy. But I'd love to pick your brains. Now, I know this is a
Mhm.
big question, of course, because I tried learning Spanish. I really wasn't successful. I can
Uh-huh.
get by, but I will. Yeah, I say that to all of my subscribers and followers now. I haven't been successful yet. I always say, do as I say, not as I do. But I'm
Uh-huh.
working on it. I'm working
Yeah,
on it. I'm
yeah.
trying. But for you, because Spanish, Italian, what would you say is most helpful when learning a language? I know you can't really put that down to one point, but what has really helped you?
Well, the easy answer, which isn't applicable to everybody, is my girlfriend.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I met my girlfriend when I was still in the UK, in my final year of university. Some like 9 years ago now. It's been a while.
Oh,
And she already spoke English. Could have improved it, of course. I was already learning Spanish and already spoke a little bit. So the fact that I was able to speak to her so often and feel comfortable about about making mistakes and not worrying about those mistakes.
yeah.
So there was a safe space for improving my Spanish, and also someone who I wanted to speak to all the time, whether that was via WhatsApp or in actual conversations, and like voice notes as well. And these are all the things that are harder to find, and the ones that usually you feel the laziest about. Based on what I mentioned earlier, that I can easily go for a walk and listen to 5 podcasts in Spanish. And I don't mind it because you're bit by bit learning more, but there's very, very low effort. So
Yes.
the best thing you can do is actually start producing and thinking, because we're very lazy as human beings, especially with artificial intelligence at the moment. But you can always create some kind of artificial environment where you need to send voice notes, have conversations with yourself in front of the camera. You can also speak to ChatGPT, for example. So it's a little bit, maybe not the answer that people are looking for, but if you can find someone that you feel comfortable speaking to, messaging and stuff like that, this is perfect. And then get them to correct it. Of course, there are certain teachers who will charge for this service. If you can meet a friend who can do this with you, then that's even better. And worst comes to worst, nowadays we can use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I speak to ChatGPT from time to time in French with voice notes as well.
Wow.
And this really helps. But I don't have the same motivation that I did with my girlfriend to actually have a conversation, because one is a human being and the other is coding. So
Yeah.
produce is basically try to think and produce rather than just having constant input. You need both, but let's not be lazy about producing your English or another language at the same time.
Yeah. I love that. I think that is so true. Output as well as input. And I think, so as you say, maybe 5, 10 years ago, if you didn't have somebody to talk to, there's kind of this idea that, well, I can't speak out loud. How am I going to practice? But now we're given so much information and opportunities to speak that it's getting to the point, where there's the only thing that's stopping us is our own perhaps insecurities or the way we feel about ourselves. And I completely agree with you. Just get speaking about anything, no matter what it is, even if it's to yourself. I don't, it just doesn't matter. But just get talking, get the mouth moving, and just keep doing that. And it is, I completely agree. And I guess it does help, like if you've got somebody that you can talk to and you've got incentive to
Yeah.
communicate with, that definitely helps.
Yeah, I'd say that's the biggest game changer. But I touched on it just a minute ago that if you have ChatGPT and you have the
Yeah.
application, like literally you can get your phone, you can go on the ChatGPT app, and then you can just start recording
Wow.
a voice
Yeah.
message and say like, tell me or ask me a question about my day. And
Oh,
then you'll
wow.
have an artificial voice being like, so Lewis, what time did you have breakfast today?
Mm.
And then you can say, I actually didn't have breakfast. At the moment, I'm trying to fast.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And the conversation can go from one thing to another. And you just need to set an alarm or a reminder in order to do this and be consistent as often as you can. Ideally every day, but we can all have cheat days like we have with food, with languages. So at the weekend, if you don't feel like it, don't worry. Monday will come.
Yeah, just chill. Yeah, I completely agree with you, and just enjoy the process. But Chat GPT is a brilliant piece of software. Now, you touched on something there, kind of saying setting a reminder or, making note of it. Now, for you, of course, you've done traveling, you're busy, do a lot of work on social media, you're a teacher. How do you manage to schedule all of that? How do you manage to get it all accomplished within a day?
It's hard.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Basically. But no, I'm not very organized when it comes to writing things down and keeping everything in a nice, organized, tidy manner. I'm terrible with that, but I am quite organized in having like a to-do list in my mind. But at the moment, I have different responsibilities. So I work for a company called Teachify, and I manage the teachers there and teach some classes and do a lot of things on that side of things as well, which is, I guess, my bread and butter. That's where I get my income from and what I spend the majority of my time doing. And then I try to make the most of any dead times. So let's say this morning I had 5 classes, but I had 1 hour break from 9 to 10. So I very quickly went out for a run and then came back and continued my classes. And then between the end of my classes and this call that we're having today, I made a YouTube video and I edited it and scheduled it to go out this weekend. So I tried to make the most of whenever I have any dead times. And I think you can only do that if you enjoy what you're doing. Yeah. So if you're thinking like, oh, I need to do this paperwork, I've got 1 hour. Yay, I'm going to do this paperwork. No, it's not going to happen because you're going to keep procrastinating and putting it off and pushing it back to the last minute. So first, I think you can only be productive and juggle different things if you enjoy doing it. And then I think it's just about having like the day before thinking, all right, this is what I'm going to try to do. This is the minimum requirement. And if I feel like it and I'm motivated, maybe I'll do more then. But another thing I do to try to squeeze the most productivity as possible is when I'm watching a football match or, I don't know, doing something else. I'm on the toilet. Maybe I'm editing a reel. Maybe I'm posting a video. Maybe I'm listening to a podcast at the same time. So I always try to kill two birds with one stone as often as possible.
Brilliant. So really just utilizing your time. I like that point as well. Think the day before, what do I need to accomplish tomorrow? What do I need to get done? And just work at it, work hard, get it done. And whether that's prioritizing, just whatever you do, just get it done and make the most of your time. Brilliant discussion, Lewis. Honestly, I could talk to you for ages. It's been a real pleasure. And I'm sure the listeners will feel the same, but you've kind of encouraged me, to give Spanish a go, proper go.
Tú puedes.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, exactly. Don't stop. Yeah, just really giving it. I just want to do it. And you've encouraged me to do that. So I'm sure the listeners will feel the same.
Good to hear it.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Maybe I think we definitely need to do one episode where it's just solely about food. I think that has to happen. We've both done a bit of traveling, so maybe we can talk about food from all around the world. And I know all you lovely watchers and listeners, we love food, all of us as a community. So that has to happen.
We all love food.
Yeah.
No, for sure. For sure. We can, of course, get together again and discuss food, productivity, see how your language learning progress is going with Spanish.
Yeah, we'll see.
I guess we can turn the tables slightly. And maybe I can ask you some questions and interview you and get into the nitty gritty of your life, your travels, and your favorite food at the same time.
I'd love to, mate. Thank you so much. It would be my pleasure to join you. And once again, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody. And enjoy the rest of your day.
See you later.